What if the real battle isn't actually with our devices, but with ourselves? Welcome to MindSwitch Books. Today, we're diving deep into this very idea. And this quote from the author of our source material today, Nir Eyal, just nails it. He argues that winning the war against distraction isn't about having more willpower or throwing your phone in the ocean. No, it's about planning ahead. It's about designing your life so that you actually follow through on what you say you're going to do. For Nir, this whole journey started with a really personal, kind of painful moment. He was spending this perfect afternoon with his little daughter. They had this special activity book designed to help them bond. And one of the questions was, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? His daughter's eyes lit up. She was so excited to answer. But right then, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and just like that, the magic was gone. He was there, but he wasn't there. The moment was lost. So his first instinct was to blame the tech. Of course it was. He tried it all, a digital detox, he bought a dumb flip phone, he even got one of those old school word processors with no internet. But you know what happened? He still got distracted. He'd find himself organizing his bookshelf or just fiddling with anything else. He was just swapping one distraction for another. And that's when it hit him, this one crucial question that flips everything we think we know on its head. And that question is really the soul of his book, Indistractable. So in this explainer, we are going to walk through his entire 4-step framework for taking back control. We're going to start by totally busting the distraction myth. Then, we'll learn how to master our internal triggers. This is huge. After that, we'll make time for what he calls traction, and finally, we'll hack back our environment to truly become indistractable. So let's get right into it. The first big idea. To really get this, you have to understand two forces that are always at play. On one side, you've got traction. Think of traction as any action that pulls you toward what you want in life. Things that align with your values, your goals. But on the other side, you've got distraction. And that's any action that pulls you away from what you plan to do. And listen, it's not just your phone. It could be checking email for the 10th time, suddenly deciding your desk needs tidying, anything that takes you off track. And this brings us to the absolute core insight of the entire book. The real enemy isn't the ding from your phone. That's just what he calls an external trigger. The real root cause of 90% of our distraction is an internal trigger. It's an uncomfortable feeling, boredom, loneliness, anxiety, stress, that we're desperate to escape from. See, the phone isn't the distraction itself. It's the pacifier we reach for to soothe that uncomfortable feeling inside. Nir actually breaks down the discomfort into 4 key psychological factors. First up, good old boredom, which is so unpleasant that one study showed people would literally rather give themselves electric shocks than just sit alone with their thoughts. Isn't that wild? Then you've got our negativity bias, that weird pull to just scroll and scroll through bad news online. Next is rumination. When you just replay that awkward thing you said over and over in your head. And finally, hedonic adaptation. That's when the thrill of that new phone or new car wears off and you're left feeling flat again. These feelings, this is what we're really running from. So if these uncomfortable feelings are the real source of our distraction, then the very first step isn't to get a new app locker. It's to learn how to actually deal with these feelings in a healthy, productive way. So let's look at how to do that. Okay, have you ever tried to just force yourself not to eat a cookie? The more you tell yourself, don't think about the cookie, don't eat the cookie, the more you obsess over it, right? Well, there's a name for this, ironic process theory. One famous study told people not to think of a white bear, and guess what? That's all they could think about. So just trying to suppress or ignore these internal triggers, it's a recipe for disaster. It actually makes them stronger. So what do we do instead? Instead of fighting the feeling, we get curious. First, just note the sensation. What does that urge to check your phone actually feel like? Is it a tightness in your chest? A jittery feeling? Then, just explore it, without judging it. Nir suggests this amazing technique called leaves on a stream. Just imagine you're sitting by a beautiful, gentle stream, and every thought, every feeling is just a leaf floating by. You don't have to grab it or fight it, you just watch it drift on by. This creates a tiny pause. And in that pause is your power to respond thoughtfully instead of just reacting. By the way, if you're finding this helpful, a quick like on the video would be amazing, and maybe share it with someone who you think would appreciate it too. Okay, once we have a strategy for dealing with our internal world, we can move from playing defense to playing offense. Step 2 is all about proactively planning our time to make sure we're actually doing the things that move us toward the life we want to live. It's crazy. The philosopher Seneca wrote this almost 2,000 years ago. And it has never been more true. I mean, think about it. We put locks on our doors, we have passwords for everything, but we let anyone and anything steal our most precious, non-renewable resource, our time. We are so wasteful with the one thing we can never, ever get back. And this is exactly why your typical to-do list doesn't work. A to-do list is just a list of things you want to get done, but it does nothing to protect your time. The only way to truly guard your time is to decide in advance how you're going to spend it. This means ditching the reactive to-do list for a proactive schedule, a technique called time boxing. You literally turn your values, what's most important to you, into blocks of time on your calendar. And being indistractable isn't just about becoming a productivity machine at work. Not at all. It's about living a full, well-rounded life. Near breaks this down into 3 key domains. First, there's you. That means making time for sleep, for exercise, for your hobbies. Second, your relationships, scheduling real dedicated time for your family and friends. And third, your work. A truly indistractable person makes sure their calendar has protected time for all 3 of these areas. Okay, so we've learned to handle our internal triggers, and we've planned our time for traction. Now, and only now, does it finally make sense to deal with all those external triggers, the pings, the dings, and the rings that try to pull us off course all day long? Let's start with the biggest offender, the smartphone. Near gives us a super simple 4-step process. First, remove. Just delete the apps you don't really use. They're just digital clutter. Second, replace. Can you wear a simple watch to check the time instead of waking up your phone and seeing all those notifications? Third, rearrange. Get those distracting apps off your home screen. Put them in a folder on the second page so you have to actively swipe and search for them. And finally, the most powerful step of all, reclaim. Go under your settings and turn off almost every single notification. For each app, ask yourself, is this notification serving me or am I serving it? And here's a brilliant little hack. You can actually customize the Do Not Disturb while driving auto reply on your phone to work for any situation. This lets you stay deep in focus while managing other people's expectations that you'll get back to them. It even gives them an out. They can text the word urgent to break through if it's a true emergency. A simple trick like this puts you right back in the driver's seat. We are at the final crucial step. We've handled our internal triggers, we've planned for traction, we've hacked back the external noise. But we're still human. Sometimes our discipline just isn't there. This is where we bring in our last line of defense, pacts. A pre-commitment, or a pact, is basically a choice you make right now to lock in your future behavior. Think of it as making a deal with your future self. For example, the famous novelist Jonathan Franzen wanted to avoid the internet while he was writing. So you know what he did? He literally put super glue in his laptop's Ethernet port and then sawed off the cable. Now that's an extreme pre-commitment. It makes getting distracted almost impossible. Now, we can make 3 different kinds of pacts. An effort pact just makes the bad habit harder to do, like using an app that locks your phone for 25 minutes. A price pact puts some money on the line. You could make a bet with a friend that if you check social media during work hours, you owe them $20. But the most powerful of all is the identity pact. Check out the massive psychological difference here. When you say, I can't check my email after 6 p.m., it sounds like you're being deprived, like some outside force is stopping you. It signals powerlessness. But when you say, I don't check email after 6 p.m., well, that's completely different. That comes from a place of identity, of control. It's not that you can't, it's that you're the kind of person who doesn't. This tiny shift in language is an absolute game changer. And that right there is the ultimate goal. This whole thing isn't about having superhuman willpower or being perfect. It's about adopting the identity of someone who is indistractable. Yeah, you might still get distracted sometimes, we all do, but your default setting, your image of yourself, becomes that of a person who does what they say they're going to do. And at the end of the day, this is what it all boils down to. It's about personal integrity. It's about being as honest with yourself as you try to be with other people. It's really about closing that gap between your values and your time. It's a skill, yes, but more than that, it's a way of being. Ultimately, the power to control your attention and by doing that to choose your life is completely in your hands. It doesn't start with blaming your phone. It starts with understanding your own discomfort, planning your time with intention, and building an identity around what matters most to you. So the real question isn't whether it's possible, it's who will you choose to be. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. If you want to learn more, I highly recommend grabbing a copy of Indistractable. The link is in the description below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to MindSwitch Books for more summaries like this one. Until next time.